on as it relates to residency and jurisdiction. If a parent leaves the state of California and moves to New York State with the intent to reside in New York State and then leaves that child in New York State with the near of next of kin and then signs a notarized statement saying that's where they want that child to be, and they go back to California, who has jurisdiction over the child if the child has resided in that particular state for most of his life, like 9 months, like?
I am attorney Vincent Davis, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brian Hamilton and Amanda Cisco. Later on in the show, Aaron will be joining us. Aaron Carranza will be joining us. And I want to say good evening to you, Brian and Amanda. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. How are you, Ben?
Doing good. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking.
Good. Let's just start off and get to the calls. Let's take a call from the state of New York, and I think it's Abadan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Yes, I got a question to ask.
Go ahead.
On as it relates to residency and jurisdiction. If a parent leaves the state of California and moves to New York State with the intent to reside in New York State and then leaves that child in New York State with the near of next of kin and then signs a notarized statement saying that's where they want that child to be, and they go back to California, who has jurisdiction over the child if the child has resided in that particular state for most of his life, like 9 months, like of its life? Who would have jurisdiction over the child?
Interesting question. Are you saying the child was left in New York for at least 9 months?
Yes, the child been in New York State, Rochester, New York, for 9 months, since it's been 3 weeks old, and it's a real legal quagmire going on right now. And they just seized the child the other day on the 25th of August. And we've been communicating with CPS in Los Angeles, but they've muddied the waters and whatnot. So we wondering who would have jurisdiction of the child in a situation like this, because it's interstate and it's real complex and it's real traumatic to the grandparents and the family for him to just be ripped away all of a sudden. Nobody asking like what the child eat, what's his routine or nothing. They arrest the grandparent, the grandfather, and they seize the child at the courthouse, escort the grandmother down to the courthouse, and the grandparents have been there from day one. They're the ones that alerted CPS in LA of the whereabouts of the child from day one. They went along as if they was trying to help, but they muddied up the waters. They filed a complaint in New York against, the mother. It's just really a quagmire that's going on. So much is going on as it relates to the case. And
okay,
they have
well,
another hearing.
let me try to answer the question. It's not a clear-cut answer. I'm sorry to tell you. Was the child born in California?
Yes, the child was born November 13th, 2020 in California.
When the child was born and or living here, did the state of California or one of the counties file a case regarding that child before the child went to New York?
No, but my other granddaughter is in foster care in Los Angeles. She's 2 years old, but no, what they did was they issued a missing person report, but they never alerted the mother to any proceedings or never served her with no papers. But she had already pre-planned, due to her epilepsy, to come to New York and reside for the health of the child, in the best interest of the child, because she had massive seizures. But she didn't let nobody know because she was fearful that, this child could potentially end up in foster care. But no, she hadn't received no service, no nothing. It was just like the social worker was doing,
Okay. Well, assuming what you tell me is factually accurate, I would say that there
Mhm.
is a very strong argument that California doesn't have jurisdiction. And if they've detained the child, what the mother is going to have to do is appear in court, maybe specially appear in court to challenge the jurisdiction of California.
Okay, well, she's back in California, but she left the child here, and the father is still here. They're legally married, but they're not getting along. It won't be no reconciliation between them two, probably. But the grandparents and the family have been here, near and next to kin, for the totality of this child's existence, pretty much. And the state of New York has just went draconian in like seizing the child based on what California said, and California initiated these false reports because in the prima facie filing, they said that the father absconded, the mother absconded, and that was inaccurate 100%, 1,000%, because the father was already here.
But where's the child right now?
They took the child after 9 months into foster care in Rochester, New York, Monroe County. Judge Fatima Reed is the presiding judge. And Sharice Sparks in LA is the.
Sir, we're not gonna mention any names here.
Oh, okay.
So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you this. The mother's gonna have to get a lawyer in New York to fight to get that child back and released to her. Okay, so I hope she has an attorney there.
You mean released to her in California or released to her in New York State?
Released to her in New York State. You just told me that there is a New York case regarding the baby in New York, correct?
Yes, sir. It's two cases. It's one in California where they warranted the child, but she left pre-court order, pre-warrant. She left there pre-court order, pre-warrant, unbeknownst to her, never been served. She came to New York State.
Okay, so I would guess that once the dust settles, that New York is going to have jurisdiction. However, under something called the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdictional and Enforcement Act, UCCJEA, if you want to Google it, the two judges could talk and they could decide who's going to take jurisdiction over the case and over the child.
Can you repeat that one more time, please, so I can write that down?
Yeah, UCCJEA. UCCJEA. Okay. Google it. The Uniform Child Custody Jurisdictional Enforcement Act.
Yeah.
Okay. And under there, the judges may be able to talk to each other and decide who's going to take jurisdiction. The mother, of course, would want to be arguing for New York if she's in New York, if she's living in New York, because it's going to be a hell of a thing to go back to California to defend herself to try to get the child back. But on the other hand, she already has a case in California. You said she has a 2-year-old, and it might be advantageous for her to have both cases in California. I don't know enough about the case to tell you which would be better. That's why she's going to have to talk to her attorney. She's
unfit. She would never be able to have the kids by herself alone. She is unfit. She had massive seizures and she got other issues I care not to mention.
Okay, well then the relatives are going to have to make a choice. They're going to have to talk to an attorney and decide where they're going to fight, this battle to get the child back.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. And how do you pronounce your first name?
Abidan, Abidan.
Okay. Hey, Abidan, I want to thank you for calling in and sharing that story and asking that question. And thank you for listening. Well, call us back in about 3 or 4 weeks and give us an update on how that is going, okay?
Okay, Mr. Davis, I want to thank you for being there for the people too, sir. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. All righty. Yep. Hey, Brian, Amanda, we're going to move into our first break for this show. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. We'll be back right after these messages.